onion keep peeling, you know, from Germany to when you first started to go out. And what was that like to be moving around and becoming like a global citizen and learning about so many cultures? How did that?
It was a lot of fun for me, because you're talking about someone who never left the country in his life, and now I'm going to like all these different countries. I think, you know, for me playing, you know, I was probably, when I first started, probably the worst pro in the world, definitely. But through the years, and it wasn't that I was the worst because my skill level, is because it was my mindset. It was the way that I was thinking about the sport. It was the way that I was going about playing the sport. And then once I changed my mindset, then I was able to play better. But
right, because you decided to make things your personal victory, as opposed to like, because I didn't know any of this till I did this, even when I did Carol. Like, you have to get 11 points,
right,
and you have to do 4 out of 7 games to be in a pro tournament to be
to win. Yeah.
But you said sometimes you were getting 1 or 2 points.
I wasn't getting 11 points in 4 games.
Right.
Total.
So you had to say, I got to have my own personal best.
Right. And so I would say, you know what, let me just get 5 points. If I get 5 points, I'm the champion of the world. And I would act as the champion of the world.
Yeah,
even though I lost. And people were
like,
what's wrong with this guy?
What the heck is going on with this guy?
But you know what's funny? I didn't realize that doing those things were setting me up for being like the coolest guy on the pro tour.
Right.
Because I would just be like, yeah, let's go. And I was had all these emotions.
And that's why you could do promotions and people follow you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you, that rock star game backing you. And then you're actually one of the characters, you're like a
yeah, I did the motion capture.
The motion capture, I call it a character, but the motion capture for the game, which is very exciting. But it also, I think it's interesting, the level of, well, you have so much energy, but to really honestly share like your victory, like you're having the personal victory in your head and you're like, all right, but you're not like going like, okay, I know I got this now. You're like letting everybody see it, but that also opens up everybody in the space to be a little more free or relaxed, or draws them into the game more because they're just observing. But when they see somebody so animated, it brings it closer to them, I think. I'm guessing. I mean, it would
does.
to me.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was playing in China. I've been to China like 30 times. And one year I was playing China Open. And, you know, you start with the qualifications first. So qualifications usually have anywhere from 3 to 4 people in the group. You play each other. One person with the best record goes on. Everyone else goes home, right? And the way the tables are set up, there's always a TV table. Sometimes there's one TV table, sometimes there's 2. The odds that you get a TV table in qualifications is very rare, right? They may pick certain players to get the TV table, but in qualifications, it's very rare you get it, right? And I would notice when I would go to China, they put me on the TV table, and not only once, but twice. Now, there's only 3 people in my group, right? So I'm playing TV table twice in qualifications, which is crazy. So I noticed this was like a thing. So one year I went.
Because you were the entertainment.
Yeah, and one year I went and I complained about it. And I says, hey, you guys need to take me off the TV table. And they were like, why? I said, because now everybody wants to play on the TV table.
Did you say it's not fair? Or
No, I told them, I said, listen, I don't want to play on the TV table. I just want to put me in the corner, let me play, just let me play my match. And they said, no, Wally, you are good for TV. That's what they said. And I said, okay. And then from there, I just ran with it. I was like, all right, you know.
Yeah, because more people were watching the game because they're waiting to see what Wally's going to do.
So from there, I ran with it. I said, you know what? And that was another mindset change. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to be the best player in the world. I just need to play well and be the coolest player in the world.
Yeah, you said the coolest
And
player.
that's what I started doing. I started just focusing on that more. Because I wasn't going to be number 1. China's number 1. No one's beating them.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I have to find my place. And that's where it was.
That's great. But see, it's interesting that all through your life, you get the messages, but you don't ignore the messages.
Yeah.
A lot of us, and I think you share that in your TED Talk a little bit, you know, we can get messages or ideas, but do we really like go with them, you know?
Right.
And that makes a difference. So when people see you going, it helps them probably want to go, you know, or think about what they want to do. So being an international ambassador of like table tennis or whatever, which is what I call you, and I believe you've been called that, you're kind of responsible for how you show up places. You know, like when you go somewhere, you got to kind of honor where you're coming from, and you got to respect where you're going. And that's an interesting place to be. So you can't, like, what would have worked at home when you were a kid with your crew, as you said, cannot work in that situation. But in a way, there is a hustle that is the same hustle in the other arenas. You just use a different version of the hustle. Do you know what I mean? Like for good. Not to say the other was not for good, but you know, in a way to what drew you, like people feel like, you know, they have your back. I think when people are at a match with you or watching, they know you have some interest in their life because you're showing your life. Do you know what I mean? You're exposing your life. So that's kind of huge in sporting thing. You're not trying to be self-centered or whatever. So did that just grew kind of along the way, or you were not really aware of that? But maybe in your talk too, I said, when you decided to do North Korea, that's something you said, I want to do, because they can't keep hating America because we're not the enemy, we're not the devil. And that, you can share a little bit about that, because that's like a wild story, to be somewhere where nobody wants you there at all.
Yeah, and every other country that was there hates America. So it was very interesting.
But you chose that. I mean, you decided to do that.
The thing with me, anything that I feel I want to do, I'm going to do it. And once I say I'm going to do it, I have to do it, because if I don't do it, then I'm going to hear my stepfather's mouth saying, oh, you'll never be successful, or you're a failure. You can't do this, you can't do that. So I was able to take my pain and turn it to purpose. And
and you also know how to manifest. You make an idea, and you stay
idea,
with it,
and it's going to happen. Like when I went to North Korea, I wanted to do a diplomacy for world peace.
Right.
I don't know how you do a diplomacy for world peace.
You just figured it out.
No one knows, right? And the first thing I said, all right, let me see if I can get people to go with me around the world. And everyone says you're crazy, they're going to kill you, blah, blah, blah. So no one went. So I said, I'll go by myself. But once again, I still didn't know how to do diplomacy for world peace. But I knew the first step was taking action. If I take the action, if I get there, I'll manifest it. Something is going to happen. There's no way that I will get there and something's not going to happen. And that's what happened. You know, I took the step, I got there, although it was, the whole process was pretty crazy. But in the end, something did happen, and it did appear. And I was able to leave there successful in showing North Korean people that Americans aren't what they think of us.
Right, and it was very interesting to me was, we talk about planting seeds, and it's very Buddhistic actually, because you also had ability to turn poison into medicine, which is a Buddhist philosophy, like you're turning poison into medicine. But you said when you went to play, still, and when you would hit something. And then you had to. You said, "Oh, I could get really I could go a different direction here," but you decided to. I guess maybe that angel was there again, but you had to. You just start smiling, and then you eventually the whole crowd started to be with you, and then I love when you talked about. You usually go over and shake a person's hand at the end of a game, and the other thing about the sport is that it's competitive and people win, but really people play because they love to play. It's the love of the game, and there's something dignified about it too. I mean, I know people are doing this stuff, but there's kind of ways people are when they're doing that. But you said you decided to hug the guy, which that was probably never been hugged like that in his life. So
no, for sure not.